Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Um, as always, we're here to help you get to the bottom of things,
hmm
really cut through all that noise and figure out what's really important and do it fast.
That's right. We want to make you well-informed efficiently.
Exactly.
That's our goal.
So today we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 strongest currencies in Africa.
As of right now, March 2025.
Right, March 2025. This is hot off the presses from this Business Day article.
Published just a couple of days ago on March 26th.
Yeah, and when we're talking about strongest currencies, of course, we're measuring this in relation to the U.S. dollar.
That's right. The good old greenback.
Yeah. So, why should our listeners even care about this? Like, what does it even matter if, one currency is stronger than another?
Well, it's a good question. And I think a lot of people maybe don't realize how important this can be.
Right.
A strong currency is a sign of a healthy economy.
Sure.
It can help attract foreign investment, and it can also help to keep inflation under control. Yeah, which is something that everybody feels that pinch.
Yeah. It affects you in the grocery store.
Yeah.
When you're filling up your gas tank,
Yeah,
it impacts your life in very real ways.
for sure. So, stable exchange rates, that comes with currency strength. I mean, that also means that businesses can plan more effectively.
Exactly. They're not dealing with all this volatility.
Yeah.
They can, think long term.
And grow and hire people and all that good stuff.
Exactly. All the things that lead to economic growth.
Awesome. So let's jump into the list here at number one. We've got the Tunisian dinar.
Trading at 3.09 Tunisian dinars to $1.
Wow. So what is it about Tunisia that puts them in this top spot?
Well, there's a few things that the article highlights.
Okay.
One is the fact that they've had pretty stable economic policies. Their central bank has done a good job of managing interest rates
Okay.
and keeping inflation under control.
Right.
And they also have really strong trade relationships with Europe, which creates a lot of demand for the dinar.
Oh, so it's like they have all these relationships that already want their currency, so their currency stays strong.
Likely. There's a lot of inherent demand.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So coming in at number two is the Libyan dinar at 4.83 Libyan dinars to the US dollar.
Now, this one's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that Libya has had some, political challenges, let's say.
Understatement.
Yeah. But their currency has remained really strong. Why is that?
Well, the main reason is oil.
Okay.
Libya has huge oil reserves. And, when you're exporting a lot of oil,
Right.
you're bringing in a lot of foreign currency,
Mm-hmm.
which helps to support your own currency.
So it almost doesn't even matter what's happening politically as long as the oil's flowing.
Well, to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, obviously, political stability is important for long-term economic growth.
Of course.
But, in the short term, those oil revenues can really prop up a currency.
Okay, interesting. So at number three, we have the Moroccan dirham at 9.57 to the dollar.
And this is another one that's doing really well.
Yeah, so what are they doing right over there?
Well, the article talks about their strategic trade policies.
Okay.
They've got a booming tourism sector.
Right. Morocco's beautiful.
It is. And then they've also got a lot of industrial development going on.
Oh, wow. So they're not just like, a one-trick pony.
Nope. They've got a very diversified economy,
Okay.
which makes them more resilient to shocks.
Mm-hmm.
If one sector is struggling, the others can kind of pick up the slack.
Yeah, that's a smart approach. All right, so moving on to number four, we've got the Botswana Pula at 13.62.
Botswana has always been known for good governance.
Yeah, and I feel like we hear that a lot, but does that actually have a real impact on their currency?
It does.
Okay.
When a country has a stable political system and a strong track record of managing its finances well,
Right.
that creates confidence for investors.
Yeah.
And that confidence is reflected in the strength of their currency.
So it's all about trust.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And then on top of that, Botswana also has a lot of diamond wealth.
Oh, right. They're famous for the diamonds.
Yeah. So that's another big factor contributing to their strong economy.
Okay. All right. So at number five, we have the Sekloa rupee at 14.37 to the dollar.
Now, this one's a little bit different.
Yeah, because Seychelles is a much smaller country, right?
Yeah, it's a small island nation.
So how do they manage to have such a strong currency?
Well, they've really focused on their strengths.
Which are?
Well, tourism's a big one.
Okay.
They get a lot of visitors from all over the world.
Yeah, those beaches are amazing.
They are. And then they also have a strong fishing industry.
Okay.
And they've developed a reputation for being a well-regulated offshore financial center.
So they've kind of carved out their own niche.
Exactly. They've found what works for them.
Very cool. All right, moving on to number 6, we have the Eritrean Nakfa trading at 15 to the dollar.
Now, this one's a little bit of a puzzle.
Oh, how so?
Well, the article mentions that Eritrea has been facing some economic challenges,
Okay.
but their currency is still relatively strong.
Hmm. So how do you explain that?
Well, it seems like the government has a pretty tight control over the economy,
Okay.
and they've been able to maintain the value of the Nakfa through those controls.
So it's not necessarily a reflection of a thriving economy.
Not necessarily. It's more about government intervention.
Gotcha. All right, so at number 7, we have the Ghanaian cedi at 15.49 against the dollar.
The CD has had its ups and downs,
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
but it's still holding strong in the top 10.
So what's keeping it afloat?
Well, Ghana is a major exporter of cocoa.
Ah, of course, chocolate.
Exactly. And they also have significant gold reserves, and they produce oil.
So basically, they have a lot of valuable resources that they're selling to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and that brings in a lot of foreign currency, which helps to support the value of the CD.
Okay, cool. So now we've got a three-way tie for 8th, ninth, and 10th place, all at 18.15 to the dollar.
That's right. The Lesotho Lodi, the Namibian dollar, and the South African rand.
Wow. So let's start with Lesotho. What's the story behind the Lodi?
Well, the main thing to understand about the Lodi is that it's pegged to the South African rand.
Okay, what does that mean?
Means that the value of the Lodi is directly linked to the value of the rand.
Oh, so if the rand goes up, the Lodi goes up.
Exactly. And if the rand goes down, the Lodi goes down.
Gotcha. So it's like they're hitched together.
Yeah. And this makes a lot of sense for Lesotho because they do a lot of trade with South Africa.
All right.
So it helps to stabilize their economy.
Makes sense. Okay, so what about the Namibian dollar? Is it the same situation?
It's very similar. The Namibian dollar is also pegged to the South African rand,
Okay.
but they also have their own economic strengths.
Like what?
Well, they have a big mining industry,
Okay.
and their tourism sector is growing rapidly.
So they're not entirely dependent on South Africa.
Nope, they've got their own thing going on.
Cool. And finally, we have the South African rand itself.
The big dog.
Yeah. So what makes the rand so strong?
Well, South Africa has the most developed financial market in Africa.
Okay.
They have a very diverse economy
Hmm.
with strong mining, manufacturing, and service sectors.
So they're kind of like the economic powerhouse of the region.
Yeah, pretty much.
So as we've seen, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to building a strong currency.
Definitely not every country has its own unique circumstances,
Right. So some countries are blessed with abundant natural resources.
like oil or diamonds.
Right. While others have to focus on developing their industries and attracting foreign investment.
And some countries benefit from close ties with their neighbors.
Yeah, like Lesotho and Namibia with South Africa.
Exactly.
So this Business Day article has given us a really interesting snapshot of where things stand right now in March 2025.
It's a fascinating moment in time.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what's going to happen next?
Right. Which of these currencies are going to continue to strengthen?
And which ones might weaken?
And how will all of this affect the economic development of the African continent?
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
For sure.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of African currencies.
And we'll see you next time.